In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, hello everybody. Hope you are doing great. You are watching FOADEBATE. In this interview, I'm honored to host one of the most prominent political analysts and experts, Mr. Rodney Martin. With years of experience and profound insight, Mr. Martin has consistently provided a clear and thoughtful perspective on global developments. In this conversation, we will delve into the most pressing political issues of the day, the challenges facing the world. I hope this discussion will be both engaging and enlightening for all of our audience. Welcome, Rodney, and good to be with you.
Well, good to be with you, and thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. Let's get started with Trump's economic policies toward the U.S. allies. What do you believe drove Trump's administration to adopt aggressive economic measures against traditional U.S. allies? Was it primarily about renegotiating trade deals, or were there broader geopolitical considerations?
Well, I think it's important to kind of understand or try to understand Trump's worldview and try to determine even if he has one. I don't believe, and I don't think anybody that has any geopolitical or economic sense believes that Trump believes that there are any such thing as allies. I think he views things in very, very simple natures, in very simple terms. So I don't think that he believes there are allies. If you look, the recipients of his venom are almost always countries that have stood by the United States through thick and thin. There's only one country that he literally gives a blank check to do whatever, including attack U.S. allies. We all know what that country is. It's perched right on the Mediterranean, and that country seems to be immune from any of Trump's policies and punitive measures, including attacking a well-established U.S. ally most recently. So Trump's worldview is there are no allies. He's looking for methods of revenue, and he is going back to the 1980s when he used to bloviate commentaries on various talk shows. He used to be Japan. He used to notoriously attack the Japanese, who had was a thriving economy and was at that time the second largest economy on the globe. Now it's China, so he attacks China. And interesting, all of these countries that he is accused of ripping the United States off and being ahead of the United States, they're not. The United States remains the strongest economy on the globe, the largest economy. I mean, it's fading, obviously. I think probably China will eclipse the United States probably in the next 10 years. And that's just a natural progression of China's worldview and a cohesive economic strategy, and a result of the United States being a fading empire and its own internal foibles and massive debt. So his attacking allies, that's not probably out of the realm and probably understandable given his history going back to the 1980s.
Fantastic. And how have these economic policies affected the trust and cooperation between the U.S. and its allies, particularly in Europe and Asia?
I think it's very obvious that the rest of the globe is now going their own way. They no longer see the United States as being credible. They no longer see the United States as maintaining fidelity to their agreements and to the statements that they make. I mean, Trump is notorious for basically changing his position based on the last person that he talked to. What he says on Friday may change over the weekend based on what he sees on the Sunday morning talk shows, and this is inherently dangerous. We see alignments of traditional American allies with India and with Russia and with China, because for better or for worse, those countries do maintain fidelity to their agreements. People within Trump's orbit may not like to hear that, And that's the problem is they don't, first of all, they don't know what they don't know. Trump has a very amateurish economic team and foreign policy team. The two are intertwined. Trump has intertwined economic policy and foreign policy. And they're very amateur, they're very ideological. They're trying to let some very extreme ideological stances drive economic policy. You hear Donald Trump talk about President McKinley, who was the president preceding Teddy Roosevelt, and who, as when he was in Congress and as a senator, championed tariffs, but when he became president, understood that tariffs were catastrophic to American industry and American trade and abandoned them. But you never hear Trump talk about that. And America is fundamentally a different country. The world is a different place in 2025 going into 2026 than it was in the 1890s. The population by far has changed. India is no longer part of the British Raj. The world has changed. Countries have developed. Fundamentally, if you have good trading policy, you have good foreign policy. Good trade makes for good friendships. It fosters greater understanding, greater cultural understanding. And that is foreign to Trump. Trump sees trade as an extension of a very aggressive and hostile foreign policy. And that's inherently dangerous. It's negatively affecting American farmers. There are more farm bankruptcies now than there has been. One only needs to look at some of the interviews now that are being done on the weekends, where farmers are saying that they are barely holding on. Soybeans, for instance, that's just completely catastrophic what Trump's tariffs have done to the soybean production in the United States. Trump, by his tariffs, has literally closed off markets to American products. You can look at the amount of cargo container ships that used to be at sea before tariffs as opposed to now. Look at the offloading at American ports. This is not good. It's not good for American consumers. Beef prices have soared because we're punishing, say, Brazil, because Trump doesn't like the prosecution of the former president of Brazil, who's a friend of his. So he decided to put a bunch of tariffs on Brazil to intervene in the internal judicial proceedings of a foreign country. And the United States used to import a significant number of Brazilian beef, so he tariffed that. So now our beef prices are significantly higher. So what Trump is doing by doing this is he thinks he's punishing these other countries and getting a whole bunch of revenue. What he's doing is punishing American business, particularly small business and small farmers, and he's punishing the American consumer, while at the same time in his recent budget bill has thrown a significant millions of Americans off food assistance. All of this combined is not going to weigh well, say, in the next, say, 12 to 18 months is when Americans are really going to feel the pain across the board, from businesses to small farmers to Trump's own base, which have notoriously been the poor and middle class white families that voted for him and are now probably going to be harmed the most by the combination of his budget policies and his trade policies.
Okay, great. Do you think these actions that you call them dangerous have permanently damaged the U.S. position as a global leader, or can future administrations repair these relationships?
It's going to be a long time, because what's happened is instability. The term instability comes into play because countries used to be the United States, regardless of whether a Democrat was in office or a Republican was in office. There was stability in terms of the economic policy. There was a little bit of difference, but not like this, where it just basically did a 180-degree turn. And American politics have become unstable. They've become the politics of extremes and scapegoating and punitive measures. And the world is looking at this and saying, wow, so let's just say in 2028, someone who appears to be reasonable is elected and tries to start unwinding this. There's no guarantee that person stays in office for 8 years. It's going to take significant amount of time to unwind all this. I would say it's going to take probably decades if we start getting a trend of stability back in the American political system and the American economic system. Not to mention, keep in mind, the monetary system. Donald Trump is politicizing the Federal Reserve, and the dollar remains the world's reserve currency. He starts politicizing that, the dollar will no longer be the world reserve currency. There's a whole lot of things in play here that Mr. Trump is politicizing and playing with that just compounds the trade issue that the world is looking at and saying, there's too much instability in the U.S. We better start forming alliances across the globe and go our own. And it's not a bad thing for the rest of the globe to form alliances and not rely on Uncle Sam, who's now acting like the drunk uncle at Thanksgiving dinner.
Mm-hmm. And let's jump to BRICS and the emergence of an alternative system.
Yeah.
How would you describe the BRICS bloc's strategy in building an alternative economic and political system? What are its key objectives?
Well, I think its key objectives is to counter the United States using economic policy as a weapon, weaponizing economic policy to make other countries, basically bend the knee to the United States will. And a lot of the public statements that Mr. Trump has made being anti-BRICS, I think BRICS actually scares a lot of the American policymakers to death, because there you have the rest of the world saying, first of all, we're not going to be subject to economic terrorism by Washington. And we're not going to be subject to the instability of the United States political system. And boy, is it unstable. And they keep making references to the 1960s. 2025 makes the 1960s look very calm, to be perfectly honest. So the BRIC system is, if I was a leader of another country, India, Pakistan, other countries, I would definitely join BRICS as a countermeasure to what the United States is doing and what the United States, more importantly, is becoming and has become. Other countries have to look out for their citizens and their economic well-being, and above all, protect their sovereignty. And I think BRICS goes a long way for other countries to protect their economic system, to provide for their citizens, and to overall protect their sovereignty.
And what about the biggest challenges BRICS faces in creating a cohesive and effective alternative to the U.S.-led global order?
Well, I think the biggest challenge BRICS is going to make is that it's relatively new. In any organization or entity, when it's new, that's when it's most vulnerable to be attacked from external forces or internal division. And I think that BRICS has done so far a very good job of insulating itself from the external attacks. I think the economies that are in BRICS are so huge, and the populations, i.e. the markets, are so huge that it's going to be very difficult for the traditional economic powers, which has traditionally been the United States and Great Britain to a lesser extent. Great Britain is nowhere near what it used to be, but still, it's always been London and New York has always been the economic powers to penetrate and do the damage. I mean, let's face it, China and India and Russia, there's a lot of people there. Those are huge markets. And believe it or not, the West needs those markets more than vice versa. So I think they've done a very good job in isolating from the outside, and I think there's very little the United States could do to do any damage there. I think internally, I think maintaining cohesiveness inside of BRICS, I think that is what that's probably where the greatest challenge is. As long as they maintain cohesiveness, and keep building the organization. I mean, you don't have people leaving BRICS. You only have people organize countries. You don't have countries leaving BRICS. You have countries joining BRICS, which is a positive thing.
And do you see any risk of internal power imbalance, for example, between Russia and China or something?
Well, that's there's been a history there, but I think Russia and China. I think you've seen that alliance grow stronger. It's a lot healthier. We're not talking about the Soviet Union after Stalin passed away and the struggles between the two communist superpowers anymore. I think you're seeing two co-equal superpowers that have different elements to bring to the table that are understanding that they have to come together because of the economic situation with the United States and what the United States has been known for around the globe, going around slapping sanctions and trying to sanction and starve people to death. I mean, during COVID, we've seen what the United States sanctions did to Iran.
Yeah.
I mean, couldn't even get medicine into Iran because of sanctions when they were desperately needed. So, I mean, the world has been watching and learning. And the problem with the United States is the United States just parrots what they see on American TV. There's no global worldview. And the sad part is these trade policies and foreign policies and monetary policies that are literally chipping away at the United States. It's like the chickens coming home to roost. These people are going to wake up one day in the United States, and it's really going to hit hard.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. In the last part of our discussion, I would like to discuss global power shifts. Actually, This is the matter of decline of U.S. influence that you might believe in, actually. Do you see Trump's policies as accelerating the decline of U.S. global influence, or is this part of a broader inevitable shift in the global order? What do you think?
Well, I think this is a natural progression of a fading empire. If you look, the under the prior administration, Joe Biden, they sanctioned Russia to death over the military operation in Ukraine. It had no effect. Russia's economy actually grew. Trump is threatening to sanction everybody for buying Russian. I'm just using this as an example. The world's not listening anymore. Mainly because Trump says one thing and then he almost always backs down, because he is even realizing, including his people, that a vast majority of his policies almost always backfire and end up hurting Americans and America as a country as a whole. So he can bloviate and bluster and engage in all sorts of huffing and puffing. But if you notice the world reaction, including traditional American allies such as Germany and to some extent Great Britain, they literally ignore him. They listen to him and they placate him. But you even see those countries charting their own course as well, to the point that we're seeing a return to literally what the world dynamic was in the 1930s prior to World War II, where countries are engaging in unilateral policy making based on their own national interests. You see countries that used to be in the world was divided into two polars that are now, you have countries making deals with Russia, China, Western countries, and that's what we're seeing. And that may not be a bad thing. It may not be a bad thing to have a single superpower. That was the great tragedy in 1991 when the United States proclaimed itself the sole remaining superpower. There was no check on its ability to run around the globe telling countries that was a lot smaller and a lot less powerful, you do what we say or else. Those days are kind of over. We're seeing it. It's kind of like when the child grows up, and I'm not wanting to demean any country by saying child, but when your adult children grow up, they start kind of just and smiling at the parents and going their own way. You kind of see that happening across the globe. I can tell you that Prime Minister Modi and the president of China and presidents of even smaller countries, they're not paying much attention anymore when Mr. Trump stomps his feet and sends out his mean tweets and says, this and that, and I'm going to tariff and I'm going to sanction, because they're going out and cutting trade deals with other countries with larger populations and larger markets themselves. The world is a big place, and Mr. Trump is having a hard time understanding that the world is a big place and the United States is not the only market that countries can go to buy and sell goods.
Exactly. And is the rise of BRICS contributing to a more multipolar world? And what are the implications for global stability and cooperation?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, as a person who believes in free market or a capitalist, BRICS should be welcome because it makes people competition we hear is supposed to be good. So it should make you modify your behavior, modify your policies, and be more competitive. But we're seeing the polar opposite coming out of Washington. They're doing everything they can to wield the levers of power and, you know, bring the big baseball bat and try to hammer countries for participating in BRICS. They're not wanting to compete. They're using, you know, threats and cajoling and all sorts of things, which speaks volumes in and of itself. They should be competing and engaging in the capitalism that they say that they cherish, but that's not happening. I think BRICS is a great thing because it gives the world markets, the world economies and countries, especially smaller countries. I'm thinking countries in the Caribbean and Latin America and Africa and the Middle East. It gives them a clear choice to engage in trade and commerce without having to have a bunch of, shall we say, strings attached by the traditional Western powers to say, you want access to our markets, then we're going to tell your government what to do and how to treat your citizens. And that's been the history of trade up until the foundation of BRICS.
Fantastic. For the last question, of course, you mentioned some important things on sanction and tariffs. I would like to ask, how effective are economic sanctions, tariffs, and actually trade wars as tools of geopolitical strategy? Are they sustainable in the long term?
No. We've seen the trade war actually has, you know, there's such thing called a Pyrrhic victory. And of course, Mr. Trump can claim that he's brought in all of this tariff money in the Treasury, and he can show a spreadsheet that says, look at all this money. But American small business, American consumers, they're paying that. And the funny thing about a lot of Mr. Trump supporters is it doesn't matter. They don't understand that when anything that a business buys, if they're paying 30 cents more, like for this water bottle right here, they're going to pass that on to the consumer. And, you know, Mr. Trump's sending out tweets saying, telling businesses to eat it. Well, for a little while they did. That is true. They're not doing it anymore. We're now seeing reports in the business journals that businesses have raised their prices upwards of 30 to some cases 40%. I know this personally because I have a foreign car. I have a German car, and I do a lot of my own repair work, and I paid significantly more for parts in the last 3 months. Those prices have been passed on to the consumers. Likewise, we're seeing this from farmers and other small businesses saying they're now seeing those costs passed along. So in the long run, you can claim a short-term victory, but in the long run, it's not a victory when your own citizens can't afford to buy beef, when your farmers are one step away from bankruptcy, when you're harming your own citizens to claim that you're getting all this revenue in. So no, in the long run, it's a net loss just on that scope. It's also a net loss when you're punishing your own allies, people that have traditionally been your allies that have stood beside you. It makes them think twice. And like I said earlier, it's going to take decades to rebuild this trust and relationship, if ever. I firmly think the world has realigned, and the world now views the United States as just another country that it has to do a workaround. Yes, if they can cut a deal, fine. But I think now countries, particularly those that used to be firmly aligned with the United States, are going to look for the best deal. And if it's not the United States, then so be it. Okay. I think China is the greatest beneficiary from this trade war.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Rodney. If you would like to add something more, I'm all ears.
Well, I think long run, I'm not sure that all of Mr. Trump's people are going to wake up from this, but I hope they will come next year. I think probably we're going to see some change in the midterm elections, and I think it will be solely based on the trade policies, the cost of living, and the economic side. That is why Mr. Trump is rushing to gerrymander and try to get more seats artificially, because he just won't have the votes in the midterm.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Mr. Martin, for joining us and for sharing your valuable insight and expertise. Your participation has greatly enriched this discussion and provided our audience with a deeper understanding of the complex political landscape we navigate today. I'm truly grateful for your time and thoughtful contributions. If you have no more words, I would say goodbye.
Okay. Well, you have a great day. Well, it's daytime here, so you have a great day, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm available anytime.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.